would like to invite you all on a journey to a place that only exists in memories. The Palace Theater of Olean, New York. Built in 1917 as a grand vaudeville theater and photo playhouse, it served the community for generations as a center of business and entertainment. Its stage has seen the likes of Harry Houdini. Roy Rogers and Trigger performed there back in the day. Thousands of feature films were screened there to great audiences over the decades. Many of my favorite childhood memories were formed there, going to see movies with my parents and grandparents and siblings and cousins. And during the time when I lived away, whenever I would return home, I would always make it a point to stop by the Palace, even if they weren't showing a movie, just so I could enjoy the architecture and spend some time stirring up favorite memories. In the same year that I moved back to my hometown, I found the Palace Theater being demolished. It's kind of sad. It made me wonder, what happens to our memories and connections when the places they're anchored to are no longer there? In the years after the Palace, I worked as a digital artist, creating 3D models and animations, and spent a great deal of time researching local history and seeking out old stories, not just about the Palace, but of other locations as well. I also began connecting personal family stories to these same locations. One in particular, my grandmother told me when she was a little girl of 6 or 7 years old, her grandmother brought her to town on the streetcar. They lived out in a rural area, and that would have been a convenient way to get to the city. Well, she said something that she always remembered was riding down the side of the mountain from Rock City Park. She could see for miles out into the city, out into the valley over top the city, among the rolling hills. It's a beautiful view. It's still there, of course. The streetcar, though, is passed just beyond the edge of living memory. My work and research resulted in the creation of animations and simulations of real places with real stories attached. And after sharing these recreations with people, they began to share back their stories and connections to these same meaningful places. And that was very satisfying, people sharing their good memories and favorite places back and forth. Then seemingly overnight, a new medium appeared, one that immerses you completely inside the content and lets you interact and view in any direction you choose. Virtual reality has actually been around for a number of years. In the past, expensive equipment was required to interact with it. But most recently, it's making its way into the mainstream by way of the smartphone in almost everyone's pocket. It opens up new possibilities for education and entertainment. It's an engaging way to share information and ideas. It has great practical uses, such as visualizing historic preservation projects. Seen here is the 100-year-old First National Bank, a cornerstone building of Olean, which has sat vacant for almost 20 years. With potentially the same fate as the Palace looming overhead. In an effort to attract new development, with respect to its historic status, VR and 360 video have been used to imagine the building as a restaurant with loft apartments up above, or as a cultural center with office space in its upper floors. Tying the future of a building to the strengths of its past can erase the perception that it's nothing more than an eyesore. VR is an excellent way to do that. It's a powerful tool to look into the future, and just as magical when used to discover and explore the past. Traveling behind the scenes a little bit, I became passionate about recreating historic places in the virtual world, especially places that are inaccessible or just no longer there. One that was recently brought to my attention is the Larkin Building of Buffalo. One of Frank Lloyd Wright's great designs. It stood during the first half of the 20th century and was the first office building to have a built-in type of air conditioning. It had 5 stories with wide open floor space and a great skylight roof to let in the light. And although it's only a memory today, we can still appreciate the architectural design through a virtual reconstruction. The last part of the journey takes us to another amazing place, one I like to visit as often as I can, Niagara Falls. And of the many events and attractions of Niagara Falls past that could be visualized, I think one I would like to see is to witness the spark of a new age next to Mr. Tesla as the turbines begin generating electricity for the first time. Or maybe go back further in time where you would see a tower perched at the edge of a much larger and more prominent Terrapin Point. It took a brave person to venture out on the boardwalk and make their way to the top, but I'm sure the view was incredible. You might even catch a glimpse of someone going over the falls in a wooden barrel. As a producer of VR, I'm very excited about the future of virtual reality and for anything it might evolve into over the next few years as it grows and changes. In the meantime, I'm very much enjoying the chance to daydream a bit and return to people and places I wish to see again. Hi, Ram. If you have a Palace Theater of your own, I hope your journey back, whether through VR or by other means, is rich with great stories and filled with many new connections. Thank you.